DeepSeek V4 Pro, Claude Fable 5, and GPT-5.6 Terra just went through the same 5 tests: cost, coding benchmarks, speed, context limits, and deployment, with a running scoreboard the whole way through. The biggest surprise, the model that costs 57 times less than Fable 5 on output tokens basically matches it on real agentic coding work. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one to actually build with, and it might not be the one with the best benchmark score. Let's start with a number that decides whether a workflow stays cheap or turns into a real bill. DeepSeek V4 Pro charges 0.435 per million input tokens and 0.87 per million output tokens, with cached input running about a third of a cent. Claude Fable 5 charges $10 in and $50 out, with cached input at a full dollar. GPT 5.6 Terra sits in between at $2 in and $12 out. Run the math at real volume. At 10 million output tokens a month, DeepSeek V4 Pro costs about $870. Fable 5 costs $500 for that same volume. That's not a rounding difference, it's a 57x gap on output pricing alone, and it's official vendor pricing on both sides. DeepSeek V4 Pro wins this test clean. That's DeepSeek 1, Fable 5 0, Terra 0. But price alone doesn't tell you if a model can actually do the work, and that's exactly what decides the next test. My name is Brian, and I spend way too many hours a day testing coding models, so you don't have to guess which one's worth your budget. This is the test that matters most if you're shipping real code, because a cheap model that breaks your pull requests isn't actually cheap. On SWE Bench Verified, Claude Fable 5 posts 95.0%, and DeepSeek V4 Pro comes in at 80.6% on its max effort setting. GPT 5.6 Terra has no published figure on this benchmark. That's a real gap, 14.4 points, and Fable 5 also takes the top spot on SWE Bench Pro at 80.3%, 11 points ahead of the next best model on record. Its Frontier Code Diamond score of 29.3% is more than double Opus 4.8's. DeepSeek V4 Pro scores 87.9 against Fable 5's 84.3%. They're essentially tied there, with DeepSeek slightly ahead. So Fable 5 wins the raw coding crown, but only on the hardest, most isolated tasks. Claude Fable 5 takes this test. Knowing which model scores highest on paper doesn't tell you what it feels like waiting on the answer. But look at Terminal Bench 2.1, the benchmark built around actual agentic coding tasks instead of isolated problems. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. That's DeepSeek 1, Fable 5.1, Terra 0. A model that codes well but crawls breaks the feel of using it in real time, especially in an agent loop firing calls all day. DeepSeek V4 Pro is verified at 90 tokens per second on its max effort setting, ahead of the reported 71 TOES average, with time to first token lending somewhere between 0.99 and 2.07 seconds, depending on the provider. Neither Fable 5 nor Terra has a published throughput number to compare against that. What we do have is community sentiment, and it's consistent. Fable 5 is repeatedly described as slow in agent workflows, often continuing to work until the harness cuts it off instead of stopping cleanly when the task is done. That's a directional call from community reports, not a lab measurement, but it's the only signal available for that comparison. DeepSeek V4 Pro is the only one of the three, with a verified number here, and it's a fast one. DeepSeek takes this test. That's DeepSeek 2, Fable 5.1, Terra 0. Stick with me because the last 4 tests are where this decision actually flips. Now stick with me because this next test is where a lot of real-world agent work actually breaks. All 3 models offer close to the same headline context window. DeepSeek V4 Pro and Fable 5 both sit at 1 million tokens, and GPT 5.6 Terra edges very slightly ahead at 1.05 million. Call that one close, with Terra a hair in front. The real separation shows up in max output. DeepSeek V4 Pro can generate up to 384,000 tokens in a single response. Fable 5 caps out at 128,000. That's 3 times the ceiling, and it matters the moment you're generating a large file or a full module in one pass, instead of stitching partial outputs back together. DeepSeek V4 Pro takes this test on the strength of that output ceiling. Context size is close to a wash here, but output room is where the gap actually shows up in practice. That's DeepSeek 3, Fable 5.1, Terra 0. The best benchmark score doesn't matter if you can't get the model running the way your team needs to. On deployment and modality, DeepSeek V4 Pro pulled clearly ahead once the workload got real. So DeepSeek V4 Pro takes deployment and modality, and the scoreboard shifts its way. Here is where DeepSeek V4 Pro clearly pulls ahead of the field. Now, here's where Claude Fable 5 clearly pulls ahead of the field. Here is where GPT 5.6 Terra clearly pulls ahead of the field. Pick the one whose single biggest strength matches the job in front of you today. One thing the docs never spell out will quietly cost you if you miss it. If this helped, the next breakdown on the channel goes even deeper.